How is everybody here on Bonfire Midweek? Good to be with you. The Bombers are banged and beat up, Zach, but they are still finding out some way to win. They moved to 7-0. Lots to get to on the program today. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. I hope everybody realizes how fresh I'm looking with my Lefty Carroll Ultimate Hair Design haircut today. She's my spin instructor and my hairdresser. So big shout out to Lefty Carroll. And other than that, beautiful day in the peg. And what can I say? We're talking about football, buddy. We're 7-0. I mean, it I don't know about you, but well, you're the professional. I get it. But for the fans here, it feels darn good. Even though it was ugly, it feels darn good to be
Oh,
7-0, baby.
I have no doubt it feels good to be a Blue Bombers fan these days because everything seems to be going their way, maybe outside of some health and some injury issues. We're going to get into that. We got a lot to get to on the program today. Thanks to everybody who's already joining in on the live chat. Lynn and Arlen. Joe is back. Aaron is here. Jeff said he remembers. So he's back in. Booch, all of our favorites, waiters, of course. Scott Roger, Rifle Up. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining us here on Bonfire Sports. So we're going to look ahead to this coming week. Obviously, it is a huge rematch, 2 weeks separated between the Calgary Stampeders and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We're going to talk about our old pal here in Winnipeg, Chris Streveler. He signed a new contract. Hate to say I told you so, but told you so.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
Getting another opportunity in the NFL. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are having a real fall from grace happening in a year where they are hosting the Grey Cup. That has to be a bad feeling in Riderville right now. The Ottawa Redblacks are still winless. How hot is Paul Appolice's seat right now? And have the Hamilton Tiger Cats actually woken up after a very, very poor start and no wins through the first 5 weeks of the season? We're going to discuss. We'll go around the league in a very busy CFL Week 7, including a whole bunch of stuff from a bit of a weird game, Zach. Bombers Elks last Friday night, a game that turned out to be really, really ugly football.
Well, you say it's ugly, Darren, but I rewatched it and I saw some things that made me smile. I saw some things that impressed me about the Bombers, even though some are calling it ugly. Someone's saying my camera's trippy.
You look great to me, man.
I look good. Some people are saying I look like I belong in grade 8. If only I could go back to grade 8.
You got like the Jerry Seinfeld haircut, right? Remember when he gets that haircut, or is it like the bad shower pressure, whatever it is? Yeah.
But people are calling it an ugly game, but I want to talk about some things that I found to be quite impressive about the Bombers. Just some things about explosion plays they did have and didn't allow, some special team stuff that Edmonton did that the Bombers didn't, and then how opportunistic and resilient the Bombers were despite the fact that they were wounded. So I have some good things to say about that ugly game. I want to pretty it up just like I prettied myself up, Darren, so that people feel a little bit better about that game.
Well, interesting comment from waiters, always wading into the bonfire waters for a completely mixed metaphor. After listening to the coach's show, you'd think the Bombers were 3-4 on the season. Some fans need to relax. Yeah, I mean, I could say that almost any day about any team or any sport. Fan is it's a word with a definition, Zach. Fan, fanatical. It literally means out of your mind. That's what it means to be fanatical. So if you're a fan, you don't have to be in your right mind. You are enjoying yourself, taking in your favorite team or game or what have you. But fans are always going to nitpick, or some fans are always going to nitpick. Others will, have the rose-colored glasses on, or the blue-colored glasses, as we've referred to here on Bonfire in the past. But in the end, this Mike O'Shea coached team, Zach, to go off of your point, they are always going to try to be better, no matter what happens. Win by 2, win by 22, win by 52, or lose by any of those margins. They're always going to try to be better. We're going to hear from Dalton Schoen on the program today, but coming up on Game Day Winnipeg on Friday, live at 3 o'clock, as we always do the day before the game, Chris Walby will join me. I got a clip from Mike O'Shea. Asked him today about, and I'll give everyone out there a little bit of a teaser, but asked him about, if it's a learning process or if it's a teachable moment or a teachable game when you find a way to win. He talked about the ways his veterans see games like we did in Edmonton on Friday, how the young players see a game like that, and where those two types of players, the young players and the veteran players, kind of communicate with one another in regards to that. That's all I'll say. Be sure to check out Game Day Winnipeg on Friday for more.
Well, and I know we want to get to going around the CFL, but I will say I listened to that coach's show, and I think Waiters has a point. Like there was one guy who was blasting O'Shea for giving up a couple of 2nd and 12s and 2nd and 14s, and I know the place he's talking about. Rose was beaten on the field side, but I mean, those plays happen, and Cornelius was seeing the field better. Marshall Ferguson was talking about it this week, who is an ex-quarterback and who is an analyst on TSN and watches the games, calls the games. He said Cornelius is seeing the field better. I mean, that's going to happen. To blast O'Shea on a few of those, like, you give those up in the CFL sometimes. It wasn't pretty. They were right after sacks, but yeah, I mean, people...
How many touchdowns did Edmonton score? How many touchdowns did Edmonton
score? You're getting into my Zach's Schnitzer's sober second thought review. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to say it was sober, but it was a second thought.
Well, it's a good second thought to have, because the reality is nobody says the Bombers won. Like, for example, nobody will say the Bombers won 321 yards to 272 yards, right? They'll say they won 24-10. It's points on the board that matter. And by the way, Edmonton had 321 yards. Winnipeg had 272. Edmonton won the time of possession 37 minutes to 23 minutes. Edmonton had twice as many first downs, nearly 23-12. Edmonton won the first down battle. And then, turnovers weren't really too much of a factor in this game. So, it's fascinating, Zach. 2 weeks ago, the Calgary Stampeders come here. The Bombers outthrow them, well, maybe didn't outrun them, because Kadeem Carey continues to be like the best ball carrier in the CFL, in my opinion, hands down. But they beat them in time of possession, in first downs, and second down conversions, when Greg Ellingson had those 7 second down conversions and 11 catches on 14 targets. The offense was clicking. The defense was clicking. All of the numbers and the ratio were in the Blue Bombers' favor, and they came out with a win. And then they go to Alberta to play the other team in the province, and it's the complete opposite game.
Totally.
Where Zach Collaros has really no passing numbers. He was 7 of 16 for 188. 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. One was a tipped ball. You can't hang that one on Collaros.
Yeah, it was tipped.
At all. Brady Oliveira has his best rushing game of the season with 13 carries for 62 yards. Nice average of 4.8. So we'll see if he's able to build on that in Calgary this weekend. But overall, outside of a couple deep shots to Dalton Schoen, there wasn't much going for Winnipeg. However, they still got the job done. They found a way to win. They allowed 3 field goals and a single.
Yeah.
Congrats. You got 10 points on the Bombers. You're probably not going to win too many football games in the CFL, let alone against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with 10 points.
Totally agree. I mean, I'm just salivating to get into my thoughts on that game, Darren.
Sure.
You're just teeing me up here. What do we want to do? Are we going to go around the CFL or what?
Let's go around the CFL.
Are we going to go opposite day?
Yeah. Well, before we go around the CFL, I want to remind everybody right here, SIA.com/bonfire. Sign up, make your minimum deposit. I think it's only $20. You can, put a little sprinkle on the games. There's no minimum bets, I don't believe. And if you do that, you help us That's Zach and myself and Chris Walby and everybody else who contributes, help support us here on the channel. So really appreciate Sports Interaction for our new affiliate partnership. Go check them out, sia.com/bonfire. Lines down below in the ticker as well. So you can look ahead to week 8. But yes, Zach, week 7 in the CFL, maybe not as thrilling or exciting as some of the really awesome weeks we've had in the first third of the season. Let's start in Ottawa, where the winless Red Blacks were looking at an opportunity. Okay, we got an East opponent. We got a team that has been up and down this season, a team with a new coach and a new defensive coordinator. Here come the Montreal Alouettes. And what happens? Trevor Harris throws for 341 yards and 2 touchdowns, doesn't turn the ball over. Jeshurun Antwi had 79 yards rushing, including one he ripped off for 55.
Yeah, that was a big one.
And Ottawa just couldn't finish drives. They did put up 33 points, but they really, really struggled to get it done when they needed to. Caleb Evans went 25 of 40, which wasn't too bad. Threw for 297 yards. Okay, fine. But I don't know if he's going to be able to help Ottawa to a win this season, at least not with this team. We saw one snap of Nick Arbuckle. Might we see him this coming week?
I don't think so. I think they're going to give Caleb Evans some rope. It's not Caleb Evans' fault that they started 0-4. That's when he comes in. And I think, Darren, he did enough. Holy, we've already got 100 messages. It must be the shaving of the beard. I don't know, man. This is unbelievable. It's not his fault they were 0-4. And he did enough to at least tie the game, to get within a point after attempt to tie the game at 40. But Darvin Adams drops the ball. If Darvin Adams catches that ball in the dying minutes, and Darvin Adams should have caught that ball. That was right in his hands. He mistimed.
He was great. He was great
before
day.
He had a touchdown, right? Like he was the stud of the game.
Like, prior to that drop, he had 9 catches on 12 targets for 118 yards. 4 second down conversions. He was making it happen. Even after the catch, he had 30 yak yards in that game. But unfortunate for Ottawa to see a W slip between their fingers, and the expression on Paul LaPolice's face on the sideline. Clear frustration from the second season head coach in Ottawa. They lose 40-33. That was a tough one.
It's brutal. I mean, it reminds me of the 4-14 Bombers that we had in 2010. It's like we're on repeat here. History repeating itself. This team is losing games by the smallest margin in the CFL. And Darvin Adams catches that ball. It's a different ball game. He has to make the catch. Scott Rogers saying it. You have to make that catch at that time. And we know Darvin Adams is old, but he's not that old that he's getting sleepy at that time of the night, right? Like you got to catch that ball. And Ottawa fans were pissed off. And I think Winnipeg fans could feel it too, that when Ottawa was down on the goal line, kicking those short field goals, you have to get majors in the CFL. Just look what happened to Edmonton. You can have all the possession you want, but listen, 0-6 is 0-6. And we're going to talk about our power rankings.
1/3 into the season, it's time.
Right, later on, but 0-6 is 0-6. They could easily have a Montreal's record. But
this is what's crazy. They're 4 points out of first place in the East. 2 wins, and they're right there. And they have Toronto this week, so they can chop that in half. Is Montreal on the bye? Is Montreal on the bye this coming week? Yeah. No, Montreal's in Hamilton. Right. It's all inside division games this coming week. Saskatchewan hosting BC, Toronto hosting Ottawa, Calgary hosting Winnipeg, of course, Hamilton hosting Montreal. I would give Hamilton that game. I think they're going to go home and handle business. The Ottawa Red Blacks are not out of it. Firing Paul LaPolice right now would be a grave mistake, even for the new GM there that did not hire Paul LaPolice. LaPolice was instilled 1 season and 2 years through the pandemic as their head coach. The new GM comes in. You fire a coach mid-season, it's trouble at the best of times. they still have a real opportunity to make something happen. I
Well,
that would be
they
really
do.
dumb.
They do. I think that they're probably holding the sticks too tight. Like what Scott Roger is saying. I'm just repeating what Scott Roger is
The old
saying.
hockey. Yeah. Well, he would know, and he would know.
We
Scott
would
Roger
know,
would
right?
know. He is a wide receiver father. Knows Darvin should have caught that ball.
Yeah.
Knows what it's like to get through that.
Well, and Caleb Evans had 52 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. He would have had over 300 yards passing if Darvin catches the ball. Would have had a great night. I think you stick with him for a little bit.
Yeah.
Arbuckle just got there, and you see what you can do. I mean, to Lapo's credit, even a stud like Lewis Ward, who's Mr. Automatic Robo Kicker, is having trouble. But I think we
Mhm.
can't talk about that game, Darren, without mentioning the command center stuff at the end with those
Remind
high
me. That was like
tackles.
a week ago, that game.
I know. So you had 2 higher tackles on Caleb Evans that got flagged, and then they got overturned by the command center, and people were just losing their minds over the command center, just talking about how much of a clown show they were. But a lot of people, including CFL pundits, were saying the command center, as silly as it looked, they did get it right. They were high tackles, but they weren't on the head. They weren't around the head and neck area. So maybe it looked like a clown show, but they were legit reversals. Booch is saying 100% agree. It just didn't look good. It just didn't look good for the
Yeah.
CFL, but I think they got it right. And if I'm a fan of either team, I saw some Ottawa fans, right? Like they need to get those right, and they did. So it looked funny. It wasted a lot of time, but on a rare double Thursday night header, hey, like isn't
Yeah.
that was interesting?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Anyway, too bad for Lapo, but I hope they turn it around. But at the end of the day, if you keep finding ways to lose games, you keep finding ways to lose games, and that is on the coach.
Yeah. Well, they do have their opportunity this week in Toronto. Far from a confident team, a very um,
Oh, Toronto.
undisciplined team, but we're going
My
to get to their game
goodness.
against Saskatchewan this past week. Gerard, who's watching live on YouTube, what's going on, Gerard? Thanks for joining us. Hi, guys. What about COVID in Calgary? We're going to talk about
Oh, yeah,
COVID
look at
and
that.
pneumonia in Calgary in just a little bit. But continuing a quick trip around CFL Week 7, Hamilton in Vancouver to face the Lions to cap the Thursday doubleheader last week, Zach. And, you know, I'm trying, like, Dane Evans continues to make people very, very nervous anytime the football is in his hands, but he threw for nearly 300 yards. And the BC Lions, particularly on offense, are starting to look a little bit more human than they
Yep.
were earlier in the season. I think the more film you find on a young team, the better matchups they will have. James Butler, man, he is exciting to watch. Real explosion in the running game. And Lucky Whitehead had his coming out party. 8 catches on 9 targets, 111 yards, and a touchdown, including a long one for 43. But Hamilton able to give it a game, but BC able to hold them off and keep Hamilton at 1 win this season.
You're right. I think the Lions are coming back to earth a little bit, but the fact that they scratch and claw out a win against the feline rivals and the Tiger Cats, I think it looks good on them. But they are coming back down to earth. You see, when you look at the stats, I mean they are the offensive stats are insane. They're still head and
Mhm.
shoulders above everybody. But those outlying games at the beginning of the season against Toronto and Edmonton, I really, they've struggled against Ottawa. They barely beat Ottawa. They barely beat Hamilton. So and then they were shown what true champions play like when we spanked them a few weeks ago. So they're an interesting team. I'd be fascinating to see where the Lions end up at the end of the regular season, Darren. But one thing they can do is run the ball. You talked about Butler, and if you can run the ball, then you can win. If you got Rourke and you got those receivers, and Butler keeps playing like that, and Rourke can run a little bit, I think they're really exciting, and I think that's sustainable football. You look at Hamilton, and I know you talk about how Hamilton is going to come around. They don't run the ball. They literally do not run the ball.
They've never,
And
it seems.
they
Yeah.
well, they had that run and shoot offense with June Jones. They even have Don Jackson now,
Yeah.
but you don't run the ball. You're one dimensional, and other teams
They
are just
ru-
going to tee off on you.
they run it really collectively. Like, what was it here? 17.
Yeah.
They ran the ball 25 times. Okay. Now, Matthew Schultz had 2 of those, in short yardage. Sean Thomas Erlington, the Canadian tailback, 1 carry for 9 yards. Don Jackson, their traditional tailback, 11 carries for 36 yards, 3.3 yards per carry as a traditional ball carrier. I mean, like, handing it off to your running back, running it between the tackles sort of stuff. Dane Evans took off 6 times for 24 yards. 2 carries for Braylon Addison, 2 carries for Tim White. They spread it around. They do a lot of these, unique jet sweeps and shovels and pitches and all this sort of stuff. But not, or even like swing passes and keeping it behind the line of scrimmage, which effectively works like a run play, but they do not pound it up the middle. It's not the same type of run play that keeps defenses honest as far as where they're lining up on the field, where their focus is, their eyes in the backfield, the rest. You can't keep your eyes in the backfield if the running back is going to be coming between a gap in the middle,
Right.
like in the backfield, I mean, eyes on the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
But that all said, you think you're curious to see where BC ends up in the standings at the end of the season. I'm leaning more towards the Ticats. I'm very curious to see if they're able to win the East Division. They sit at 1-5. They are wildly outscored in points for to points against by 41. They're
minus
outscored
41. Yeah.
Yeah. And 0-3 on the road, 1-2 at home. Fine, whatever. They are 2 points, 1 win out of first place in the East. Our 1/3 mark of the season power rankings debate coming up later tonight, Zach, between you and I, is going to be really, really fun and telling.
Well, it's Steve Rotohuskers. Is it the Steve Rotohuskers up on the top here?
Oh no, that's Friesen. That's Friesen again. He's Bob Molly. He's whoever.
He makes a good point though. Rourke has still yet to beat a team over 500. Well, they did beat the Argos, but the Argos weren't over 500 at the time. But interesting. It will be interesting to see. Yeah, all right, what's the next one?
Yeah, well, I was just noticing Booch27 saying the Blue Bombers should send Hamilton a neg list or a late round draft pick for Don Jackson, their American running back. There's 2 teams that do not want to help the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It's the Calgary Stampeders and it's the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Good point.
You could probably even throw in the Riders, especially because they're hosting the Grey Cup this season. But yeah, I don't see that happening. I also don't see Winnipeg, doing anything to bring in somebody unless they are desperate as far as healthy bodies to play. Another thing we will talk about in just a couple minutes. We'll skip over the Winnipeg Edmonton game because we're going to be talking a lot about that. Capped the week was a 31-21 Toronto Argonauts win over the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and it was all Andrew Harris. Early in the game, he became the 6th player ever in CFL history to rush for 10,000 yards and the first Canadian ever to rush for 10,000 yards. I put out a tweet congratulating Andrew on the accomplishment and saying how he may go down as the greatest male athlete in Winnipeg history. That got the debate fired up. We talked about Jonathan Toews. We talked about some of the female candidates, including Cindy Clausen. My vote in Clara Hughes, medals in both Olympics, summer and winter. She's my GOAT female athlete from Winnipeg. But it definitely got the debate stirred up with international play and championships and individual stats and the rest. But that was a lot of fun. Meanwhile, the Argos ride his 143-yard rushing performance to a 31-21 victory, and a big one, obviously, for them in the standings to keep them tied with Montreal for first place with 2 wins.
And he gets a 1 of the player of the week honors, right? Because he's also 7 for 7 out of the backfield for 45 yards. Like, he was just an animal. You saw him hurdling people, and I think that was a game where Winnipeg fans' hearts were kind of going in two directions. Because on the one hand, you see Andrew Harris, who many of us want back, and you hear a lot of chatter. Even Hustler was saying this, are we going to trade for him again at the end of the season if the Argos are out of it, right?
Right.
So it's hard to see him do well, and he looked like vintage Andrew Harris, even better maybe than last year, aside from that Western final game. But speaking of that game where he ripped the Riders, the other part of our hearts are saying, look at him. He just hates them. Like, whenever he goes to Regina, he just tees off. And I got to tell you, it brought a happy tear to my eye, Darren. So congratulations to Andrew, despite all the messy divorce and all that. I mean, he's a hometown boy. He wanted the money. He wanted to be wanted. I don't begrudge him that. We've talked about that before, but
Yeah, quite a
boy,
bit. Yep.
did he have a game. But Toronto, I tweeted. Well, first of all, I had 905 followers that very day. And so I thought, okay, 905 area code, they're going to win. I also bet on the Argos on at -1.5 on Sports Interaction. Made me some money. I know you got them at +1.5, my friend.
I did.
He does lose his helmet a lot of times, but I know people are talking about that.
I wonder if there's a prop bet on Sports Interaction for
there should be.
Times chin strap is loose, times it comes off, that sort of thing.
But Toronto, like, they tried to lose that game. It was at one point I was just, well, I couldn't scream at the TV because I was putting the kid to bed, but I was kind of watching on my phone, and oh my God, like, what an absolute tire fire. And I tweeted out, if I'm an Argo fan watching that game, a game that you should beat them by 2-3 scores. I mean, Jake Dolegala is their third string quarterback. They're walking wounded. They've got all this drama in the locker room. You've had Dickinson acting like a clown. They should have destroyed them. And I looked at one stat that really would piss me off if I'm an Argo fan. They have turned the ball over in the other team's red zone 3 times this year. And Harris, speaking of Harris, did it again. And that field goal, like 61-yard field goal, even with Boris Beatty in his leg, like, why do you give another, like, they were winning by what, 2? Now you're going to go up by 5? Like,
they got greedy, and Ryan Dinwiddie spoke about this after the game. Waiters mentioning the obvious here. Ryan Dinwiddie calls a lot of questionable plays, but that decision was one of two things. It was either desperation or blockhead. Really, right? Like, one of two things happened. I think it was sorry, we're talking about, I'm thinking about his challenge call late in the game. That was a desperation
I'm not talking
move.
about that one.
But yeah, no, at right before the half, deciding to kick the field goal was pure greed. And yes, Dinwiddie, that's where I was. I lost my train of thought there with all of these great comments in the live chat. Thanks, everybody.
Well, it's that digression, buddy. You're the king of the digression, and you haven't even said the word today, so I'm going to give you some props. We should do a prop bet on that, buddy.
It's been 29 minutes. Well, yeah, I know I'm going to have to take some shots.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
But he talked about it after the game. It was greed. It was trying to gain a little bit more momentum at the half. I get it as much as I do not get it. He is an inexperienced head coach, and it bit him. It absolutely
bit him, and it deserved to bite him. In his post game, he said he wanted more points. Like, you're up by 2. Everybody knows that the Argos were the better team, and all they had to do was manage the game and let Jake Dolegala make some mistakes or just throw incompletions. You just give them life that they don't need. And I just it was a head scratcher. It was like going full tilt poker, but you're ahead. Like, why are you going full tilt, buddy? Yeah. You're the chip leader there. What are you doing? And then they have that bad snap at their own red zone, which that was interesting. Hey, you see Charleston Hughes bat ahead of even Glenn Suter
That
was confused by that one. He's
that
like, "Oh,
was
that's
the
smart." Like,
that was
Glenn
the play
Suter
of the
kinda
year. I didn't know that
yeah,
rule existed.
yeah,
He said if
neither
I
did
knew
I,
that, I would have
actually.
used two hands because apparently you
Right.
could do it with two or whatever,
Well, you can
but
kick it. You can kick it.
right,
You can
right,
dribble it, but you can't
right.
like, I didn't know that, so I appreciate that Glenn Suter walked it back, but
But what an unbelievable
I
play by
just
Charleston Hughes. That was awesome. I hope that stays in some highlight packs despite it being an illegal play. That was pure athleticism and just veteran savvy and smarts to do what he did. Just knock it out of the way from McLeod Bethel Thompson and make something happen. I thought Jake Dolegala looked pretty comfortable. There might be a
yeah.
future in there for him. Of course, we've seen that a lot in the CFL where a quarterback has a good game or three, and suddenly you're like, oh wow, this is he's going to be the next starter, and it ends up kind of just petering out.
Yeah, I
Last
mean
last thing I want to mention about this though, Zach, is Curly Gittins Jr., the Canadian. Like he's had some really good plays and some pretty good games in his through his first two CFL seasons or one and a half right now. 8 catches on 8 targets, 152 yards and a touchdown. He had 4 second down conversions. Of his 152 yards, 92 after the catch. He made it happen.
speed.
Yeah, elusiveness. He's a great football player.
He is fast on that long touchdown. Boy, did he put on the afterburners. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
he was impressive. I was a little bit hurt that Dalton Schoen didn't get on there, but I think Gittins beat him out, and that's fair. He's Canadian too. What about this challenge? What did you think about that?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think back to it now. They were challenging. Oh, geez. Now I can't completely recall.
Someone on the chat might, because someone said I actually
Well,
don't
Waiters
remember
is
it.
going to say, it's his hot comments that get me flustered. But it was a pretty ridiculous decision. That's what I vividly remember was like, what is he doing?
Oh,
Right.
it was the
Thanks
spot.
again,
That's
Waiters.
right, waiters. It was the
Right.
spot.
And you know what?
Even the
Some
commentators
people,
were, yeah.
yeah, some people were saying like, oh, the camera angle shows it. It's not. They just measured it. They were just on the field measuring it, and you're going to challenge like what? Somebody hundreds of meters away with
Yeah.
a video camera is going to know better than the official who's standing right there next to the other official who put the ball at that spot. Pure idiocy or desperation. To make that challenge call. Thanks again, waiters. Appreciate you keeping me checked on Bonfire Sports here. You're there when
Well,
we
and
need you, buddy.
yeah, we do. We had a spirited discussion in our bonfire fireside chat group about that, about camera angles, and you said it well. Like you're right, the refs right there. You never get those overturned.
No,
Maybe
and,
in
and
the NFL you do here and there, but not the CFL.
yeah, like at the goal line or that sort of because they put the cameras right in like the foam pylons at the corner. You know.
Yeah. And I get the
Uh,
frustration, that you're going to turn it over on downs, and they thought they had the first down, and maybe they did. I mean, it's so close, right? But
so
so stupid.
Gregory, with this comment, it was a first down. Last camera angle displayed that. I mentioned this to Gregory in a DM group I'm
Yes.
in with him, and I just mentioned it here on the show. The camera guy cannot get the right angle. He can't go right down the line because that's where the official is standing. Like it's literally impossible for that camera angle to get the proper angle. So, are you going to trust an off-camera angle or the human
The
being who's right
official.
there seeing
Yeah.
with it with his eyes and not through a camera screen? But um, we digress. How about that? Okay, so that brings us obviously to Winnipeg's 7th win of the season, 24-10 in Edmonton over the Elks. Taylor Cornelius, not too bad of a game, 60% for 270 yards. The defense bent, did not break. They allow 3 field goals and a single. Zach Kalaris was 44% passing. And if it wasn't for some nice deep shots to rookie sensation Dalton Schoen, this may have been a very, very different football game. Your sober second thought, Zach. You and I obviously did the post game, but now that you've had a few sleeps on it, what do you think back and are reminded of when you think of that Bombers win in Edmonton?
Well, first of all, it's funny. They're 7-0 and he had 7 completions. I think that's amazing. But
Yeah.
when I think of the 7 completions, it sounds like a ridiculously low number. And it was funny how people were saying, when was the last time that happened? Well, sure enough, it was 2019 when Chris Streveler was the quarterback and he had 7 completions and he had a buttload of yards rushing. Funny enough, in that game, our winning touchdown drive was also penalty aided because Jeff Gray got his face into the other team, and then he sort of pranced away like he didn't do anything, and then the Elks got the flag. But I thought it was an interesting game. First of all, I thought what you talked about Calgary at last week or 2 weeks ago, rather. It was almost the exact opposite in that Calgary really gave us trouble with explosion plays, Darren, and special teams dominance.
Yeah.
This time it was the Bombers with special teams dominance and explosion plays. So I thought it was kind of funny how that turned around. But I have three themes. I have explosion plays, I've got special teams blunders by the Elks, but then I've got that maybe we're not appreciating how opportunistic and resilient the Bombers were in that game. So let me just start with my sort of sober second thought. This is water, by the way. I'm not drinking on a Tuesday night at this time, I don't know what Darren's drinking. We should be drinking. We should have a beer sponsor because we have freaking Walby. I mean, come on. It's a no-brainer. But anyway, I digress. So the Bombers allowed no explosion plays. And I'm doing that by the letter of the law. You know that Lawler had one 25-yard catch, but it has to be a 30-yard catch in the CFL to be a big play. Did not allow a big play. They had 2 close ones. So there was a bomb to Lawler where actually in the second quarter where Houston was beat. But who breaks it up but Malcolm Thompson, right? So he breaks up a play. So they don't allow that one. Then Rose, who kind of got dummied on the field side a few times, especially on second and long after some Bombers sacks, he breaks up a 30-yard one in the third quarter to Hawley. And then there was great coverage on Lawler on a 40-yard pass that would have got the Bombers, would have got the Elks right back in the game in the fourth quarter. And I believe there was double coverage. So they didn't give up the big play like they did versus Calgary. They didn't give up a big run versus Winnipeg, who feasted on the big play. Yeah. It was, the end of the second quarter. The game was kind of putting you to sleep. It's 10-6, and boom, Zach Collaros dances around pressure like he had been all night. And just a thing of beauty to Dalton Schoen with 40 yards of yak yards and dummying Duron Carter. I mean,
that's your favorite word tonight.
Yeah, I've said it again. I might even be self-referential here, but anyway, I mean, any other safety has him dead to rights, and he just dances around and runs away from him. And I mean, what a play. That got me out of my chair. And I know it was just one play, but it's just the difference between the two teams that Winnipeg executed on their big plays. And then with about 4 minutes left in the second quarter, he had that 40-yarder to Dalton Schoen. I mean, nothing was going well. And then he had a beautiful, beautiful catch on the sidelines. So they had 2 huge explosion plays. They also had the touchdown catch to Bailey, which was, I believe, 26 yards. So it didn't technically count. And then he almost had another big one to show, and he just overthrew him in the end zone. I mean, Zach Collaros, for the putrid numbers, almost had 4 touchdown passes. He had a touchdown pass in that winning 9-minute and 27-second romp in the fourth quarter to win the game, but it was a pass interference on Janarian Grant. His jersey was pulled. He would have reeled that for a touchdown. I mean, he almost has 4 touchdowns. In any case, So the explosion plays, we had them, they didn't. As much pressure that was on Zach, he didn't get sacked. We had 5 sacks, huge, and then
Yeah.
4 knockdowns, 3 by Willie Jefferson. So just we came to play when we needed to play. It was almost like we were playing possum with that team. So I think,
They're an
it was a
inexperienced team. They
they're an
could play a little
inexperienced
possum with
team,
them.
and it's a trap game. As much as O'Shea would never admit that, you're walking into Edmonton, a team that's a bit of a tire fire on the road. A short week. I believe we had 3 games in what? How many days? 18 days or something. We're
Right.
walking wounded, and Winnipeg did what they had to do. Okay. Second thing was special teams. Edmonton took 6 special teams penalties for a total of 66 yards. And
Right.
that is just going to kill you. 2 of them were illegal blocks, so it puts you back, right, in terms of field position. They had an illegal kickoff, was the very first kickoff of the game. And by the way, it was Matt Mengel. So it was interesting. They had 1 kickoff in the whole game, and it was the first one. He kicked it off out of bounds. I guess they went away from it after that. And then it was Sergio Castillo
Mhm.
was just punting and place kicking. So I thought that was odd that he wasn't kicking off. But anyway, they had the illegal kickoff to start the game. That puts the Bombers on the 50-yard line. 2 illegal blocks, 1 no yards, and then they had a roughness on a return, Darren, and then of course the infamous contacting the kicker. And just you put those together, those are things you just cannot do against the Bombers. The Bombers had 1 special teams penalty, and it was in garbage time. Tyrell Ford. There was about a minute left. We were up by 2 scores. It was over. So just there's the penalties. They had double the penalties, and you just can't do that against the Bombers, even if they're on an off night. So they beat themselves on special teams. And then I want to talk just a second, and then I'll shut up. But opportunistic, right? So
Yes.
the Bombers get that well-deserved Dietrich Nichols pick off the little chew that Malik Clements, the dentist, took out of the ball.
Oh, I
Nice,
see what you
nice.
did there.
Yeah. He batted it down nicely. And first play, beautiful, beautiful Zach Collaros touchdown pass to Rashid Bailey in between 2 defenders. He beat Dakoud, who's a good halfback, and it was a physical catch by Bailey. Like the guy's hand was right in his face. I think he caught it with one hand and wrestled it to the ground, maintained possession. So even though Bailey's not getting the numbers, when his number is called, he makes that beautiful catch. So they turned that into a touchdown immediately. Then you had Zach Collaros. He had that pick to Antigua. He was under pressure. Next play, Thompson just smokes Kenny Lawler, takes him out of the game for a bit. And then the next play after that, Taylor Cornelius is sacked for 7 yards by Biggie, right?
Right.
So Edmonton picks it off, but they do absolutely nothing with it. You talked about this last time, right? And then they punt. The next Winnipeg possession, right? They've given up a pick. They get the ball back in a 2-and-out. What happens? Brady Oliveira loses 3 yards. Fair enough. That was happening at the beginning of the game. And then it's the 81-yard touchdown. So
Right.
opportunistic, they're resilient. And just the last one there is, you talked about the Duron Carter interception. Zach was hit as he threw. Next play, Edmonton does get a big pass, but then it's 2 plays and out. So it's basically 3 plays. They punt the ball. And then you have the drive where Winnipeg basically salts the game away. So even though they're throwing picks on the road and the offense is stalled, the next drive is that massive 9-minute, 27-second drive. That's where Brady Oliveira finally gets running. And he had a few decent runs with a large of 10. And there was a nice play on that drive. I will say Zach only had 7 completions, but he had one falling down under pressure. He was falling down and somehow found Dalton Schoen for 16 yards. And then he had the PI against Janarian Grant, which was a beautiful throw, by the way. It would have been a touchdown if his
Right.
jersey hadn't been pulled. So just it's not pretty, but the Bombers are opportunistic when the opportunity presents itself. They go for the kill shot. And that's all they needed to do in that game. It wasn't pretty, but it's what they needed to do. So I just thought, as ugly as the game might have been on the surface, I thought it was pretty. I thought it was
Pretty.
pretty. I liked it. It was pretty. We're on the road in a trap game. They made some pretty plays, and they did what they had to do. And when the
But
pressure's
it was an
on,
ugly it was an
it
ugly
was an
game.
it was when the pressure was on.
Yep.
They hit round, they hit knockout punches, right? Whereas the Elks just, the jab, 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 body shot, jab, jab, jab. It was like what's the Rocky movie where he plays possum? Is that the one against
Mm,
is that the one
Apollo?
against
Oh,
I don't
no,
know,
Mr. T?
Mr. T? Yeah, he just keeps getting hit, and then boom, just
Yeah.
smoke the Elks and then the game was over, and the Elks, who are a type of game, the game
Yeah.
was over for them too. So
All
that's my
good points
sober
by
second
you.
thought, buddy.
Yeah, all good points by you in your game notes, Zach. I really like this comment from Scott Roger. Bombers' confidence allows them to be patient when struggling and not force things, wait for the opportunities, and then take advantage.
Love it.
They
Yeah,
know they'll get chances. And, that's part of being a veteran team. That's part of knowing, the confidence is knowing, right? Confidence is knowing what's going to happen or knowing yourself. The Bombers don't know what's going to happen, but they know themselves and they know what they can make happen. So that confidence is a huge, it's almost like a superpower for the Blue Bombers right now because they never feel out of the game. Um, you never see the body language drop. You never see that waver. It's impressive. This comment touches on something I wanted to point out in the game, Zach. Vicky Short saying, loved our Karate Kid Maruo's sack. Les Maruo, the global linebacker, of course.
yes.
He's getting lots of love from Japanese fans. Love what is it? What do they call that karate kick? The Karate Kid
Oh yeah,
kick. The
crane
Yes, the
kick.
crane. Yeah, and the crane kick. And, very cool sack celebration. But what was very, very cool about that was not only was it the biggest sack as far as yards lost on the play with 12 in the game, it was also right there, another global player in Teadric Hansen. If there is a textbook definition of how to play globals in the CFL, you need those two young men and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers written underneath. It is unbelievable to see how impactful Winnipeg's global players are. Not just
Yeah,
one guy, but a bunch of guys
yeah,
all the time.
yeah.
And, like it started with Teadric Hansen putting Mike Daly on skates and blowing up Frankie Williams in the Grey Cup, right? And, it's most recently been capped by Les Maruo and his crane kick celebration after sacking Taylor Cornelius. It's awesome to see and says a lot about the work the Blue Bombers do. You don't just fall backwards into finding talent in the global draft. They do their homework. They put it in, and it's worked out really well for them.
Let me ask you one question, maybe folks in the chat, about a run game. I know that people are clamoring for you're putting it up right there, like perfect timing. They want
Mhm.
Augustine. Augustine had what, 3 carries in that game. O'Shea was saying from the beginning of the season they're going to run it as a collective. I think we were all expecting maybe Augustine to break out this game because Brady had a tough game in Calgary. But Brady, by the end of the game, and maybe it's because they were beating them down in that zone run scheme, he did start to get going. He does get his pad level low. I'm not saying he's Andrew Harris, but it made me think that maybe something can get going. But my question is the O line. So the center, Chris Kolinkowski, we've talked a few times, Darren, about how he's been pretty good. You haven't seen a wild snap from him. He seems to be relatively invisible, which is
Yeah.
exactly what you want. But I did see a couple run plays where Brady was looking for the zone behind Kolinkowski, and Kolinkowski just got bulldozed back into him. And I never thought of the center as a big part of the run game, but I'm curious about your thoughts or people in the chat, and maybe this is getting a little technical, But how big of a loss is it with Couture out? I know our run game wasn't exactly popping off the page with Couture either, but how big a role does the center play in a run game? And if so, is that really holding Augustine and McRae and Brady back?
I don't think so. I really, really don't. How important is the center to the run game? Extremely
Yeah.
important. They're at the point
Yeah.
of attack. They're where the ball begins. Outside of the calls they make at the line and the rest, I feel like the center is kind of the linchpin of the entire line. If you lose your block, if you lose contain in the middle of your line, you're going to have failure. You're going to have,
Yeah.
fails in your protection.
Right.
So, but I don't think that's the problem. I really, really don't. I understand, you know, Oliveira and Augustine are getting met in the backfield, but I don't know if I can pin it on something. Like, oh, it's the play calling. They need to try this or that. We really don't know that. Like you and I have talked about this before a lot, Zach, right? There's a lot going on in football games, and that's why these people, that's why these staffs are so large. That's why they put in countless hours of work to try to find those little advantages. If Winnipeg could get the run game going, believe me, they would find a way to do it, but they're struggling right now. And I don't think it's talent. I don't think it's, one thing or the other. It's probably a combination of things, and they just can't find that right mix. The good news is they've got the best quarterback in the league. They have very deep receiving, as we're learning with all of these guys out of the lineup right now. And, they've got a defense that can really take over almost any game on any day.
Yeah.
So
The defense is all
again,
world,
it's
right?
it's it's nitpicking a little bit to be like, how come they're struggling with the run? Waiter's saying in the chat right now that it's too predictable when they run. Sure, but good running teams still find a way to run it. Yeah, it's predictable because they're trying to establish it. Defenses know it's coming. However, you still dictate at the line of scrimmage and you force your opponent. I don't think you're going to catch anybody off guard running the football. Like reverse play action sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I get you, but I think it was MRV who I've never seen in the chat. So welcome, MRV. Apologies if you've been here before or have a different name, but saying, how much are we missing Desjardins? I think we must be, because that's the variable here. He's gone. He's the one person who's gone. And I've seen on some of the forums folks saying that Jeff Gray is. I don't know what your thoughts are here, Darren, but that Jeff Gray is actually maybe more suited to be a tackle. Is that true? I had never heard that before. No. Okay. Because I thought maybe if Gray isn't feeling natural in that guard position, that maybe that could account. But I don't know how good Jeff Gray is in the run game. We lost you, Darren.
Well, look, I'm doing all these hand signals and talking with my hands. You guys can't even hear me. Moving from guard to tackle is a step up in difficulty,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't get easier. I don't think you would find any guard would say, I can kick out to tackle and it's going to be, less of a challenge. Like every position is a challenge. But I think a tackle moving to guard would probably be a little bit of a, as far as like technique and not skill, but just like the technique of the position. I think moving from tackle to guard is probably a little bit more straightforward than moving from guard to tackle. You have to be very, very nimble to be a tackle. You got to stop Jagger Davis speed
Yeah.
rushing you. You've got to stop Shane Ray bull rushing you. You've got to stop Willie Jefferson ripping you. They're swimming you. It's not easy.
Yeah.
So I don't think a shuffle is the issue. I don't think a shuffle is what they're going to do. Getting Michael Couture back, sure, it'll help. Of course.
Yeah.
Maybe with the way Kolinkowski is played, they might switch things up a little bit and put Kolinkowski at another spot. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not completely sold on it being specifically one thing or the other. It kind of does lead us to, though, Zach, to talk about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers injuries, and coming out of that game, the one that is most notable is the loss of Carlton Agadosi.
Yeah. That makes you sick watching that, eh?
Absolutely. And, his
For the young
comments
guy.
on social media saying, it's going to be a long road back, and the rest, alluding to it being, a little bit more long term. I don't know if I saw eyes on him if I had eyes on him at practice, but they're very likely going to be without him for a while. They do have some players coming back from the injured list. I'm just pulling it up here. So as of right now, Mike O'Shea was asked today for an update on Greg Ellingson, did not have one, or did not want to divulge one. But Jackson Jeffcoat was not practicing today, but he's still very active on the field. I think that's probably more of a, load management or vet day type thing. Stanley Bryant was another one who took the day off today to kind of monitor things. Zach, while I pull up the injury report here, because I failed to before the show, because I'm so prepared, tell me which Blue Bombers injury you think is the most concerning as far as their ability to go out and win football games.
Well, I saw that you posted that Ellingson didn't practice today, and I hope that's just precautionary, because we're not playing Edmonton next week. We're playing Calgary. And you saw coming off a bye, I believe Calgary's record coming off a bye is exceptional, and which you would expect with people like Dave Dickinson and Huffnagel. But
absolutely,
if we don't have Ellingson next week, that would concern the heck out of me. Although, of course, we hear today that they've had some virus issues or pneumonia and possibly COVID there. So it could all even out in the wash. But I think we're really missing Dembski. I think he really, as you've called him, the Canadian Swiss Army knife, or the Canadian Army knife, he really stretches out defenses and makes them think, because he can throw anything at you. He can run up the gut. He can do the sweep. He could beat you deep, and he can run over the middle like a slant or just a short curl. So Calgary, I'm seeing waiters here. Calgary's going to be hungry. And if they don't have Ellingson, that really concerns me. Jeffcoat, I think they can survive without. I thought Wilcots and LB Mack played reasonably well.
Yeah. And they did a lot of different things too. Like, did you notice Shane Gauthier was the middle linebacker on the first defensive play of the game?
Yes, and he had a big stuff on who was the running back for Edmonton? I forget, but yeah.
Oh, it was
he had him in the backfield.
Yeah, Irons.
Malik Irons, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, waiters, right? Once again, Calgary wants revenge. Like, they hate losing to the Blue Bombers. Just my gut telling me that. But when it comes to Winnipeg's injury report, Jeff Gray did not practice today due to a thorax injury. Start Googling now. I know I had to. Stanley Bryant took a veteran day. Here's the thing. I was talking about this at practice today. Stanley Bryant practiced every day and played every game for season after season after season until his Ironman streak, the Cal Ripken of Canadian football, his streak ended last season, where he wasn't terribly hurt, but things were wrapped up. They didn't need to play him, so they gave him a nice rest before the postseason. He's now taking a lot of veteran days throughout the practice week. Same with Pat Neufeld. He's listed as a hip, but did not practice today. He's been taking some veteran days throughout the season. Johnny Augustine has an ankle injury, Zach. He did not practice today. Mike Miller, another one of those veterans, taking time. As we mentioned, no Greg Ellingson at practice today. Obviously, Carlton Agadosi has not been placed on the 6-game injured list yet, but I'm also curious if where his salary is as a, like, I understand he was on the practice roster last year, but he's a rookie. So maybe the move to the 6-game is not something they need to do. If maybe he can come back in 4 or 5 weeks. We don't know. Jackson Jeffcoat, Ricky Walker, both on the injury report, but both were at practice today. Jeffcoat did not participate, but running around quite a bit. Ricky Walker there as the healthy scratch, needs to be on the injury report. That's just the way it is. As far as the guys on the 6-game, Kyrie Wilson is in a walking boot, unlikely to return anytime soon. Same with Drew Richmond, the offensive lineman. Brendan O'Leary-Orange, Noah Hallett, Nick Dembski, Michael Couture, all still not practicing. Same with the one player I get asked about more often than any, Zach. Can you guess who it is?
I cannot. Ooh, Dietrich Nichols, your boy Dietrich Nichols?
No. When it comes to coming back from injury, it's BA. It's
Oh,
Brandon Alexander.
BA, of course.
Everybody is curious what's happening with him. Still
Yeah.
not practicing. They're not rushing him. They don't need to rush him.
No, they don't.
So I think it's smart to just let it happen and let it come back when he can. He's working his tail off. I do know that. Jesse Briggs is back practicing. He's likely to return either this week or next week, and that'll be a boost to special teams. That'll be a boost to the defense as well. That, especially following the injury to Kyrie Wilson, helps a lot to have another veteran there. Couture, maybe a few more weeks after breaking his arm. The one that is ready to come back is maybe not the position they need, but it is a position that will help. And that is at short yardage quarterback. Dakota Prukop running things at full speed at practice today. It was a padded practice for the most part for the Bombers. You know, they're only allowed 12 throughout the season. They worked them out hard and then they sent them home. Gave them a rest for the rest of today, being Tuesday. But seeing Dakota Prukop out there running, you're just like, wow, this guy can move. Like, he is not just, you know, a short yardage quarterback. Like, you know, Calgary's got that 6'5" guy, whatever his name is. Tommy Stevens, right?
Tommy Stevens, yeah.
Sorry, all respect to Tommy Stevens. Name escaped me, but he's a huge man and nice and short yardage. Dakota Prukop has speed and has some power, and he can really make some guys miss. So
and maybe he opens up the run game too, Darren, right?
He very well
maybe
could.
On second and short, third and short. Maybe he keeps that Calgary D line and linebacking core guessing, and we know he can run. So maybe he opens, like, I think Prukop is a big addition to the short yardage. Like, Drew Brown has filled in okay, right? But I think it's big to have Prukop back.
Absolutely. Zach, should we predict or pick our game of the week before we get into our 1/3 of the season power rankings? So the upcoming schedule is, and I just had it here and now I lost it. So upcoming schedule for week 8, Montreal in Hamilton, BC in Regina, Winnipeg in Calgary, and then the Argos are hosting the winless Ottawa Redblacks. Game of the week, I think it's a no-brainer.
I think even we can predict this one, Darren.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, the Bombers and Stamps is important for a couple of reasons. One, they're the two best teams, I think. Teasing my power rankings. They're the best team in the West. You have Winnipeg at 7-0 and Calgary at 4-1. So if Winnipeg wins this game, which most people won't predict, I bet. I'm just waiting for CFL.ca writers to predict the, 9 out of 10 that the Bombers lose, and that's great. That'll probably get them frothing at the mouth. But if Winnipeg beats Calgary, I believe they only play each other 3 times. Is that right? So I think they then,
Winnipeg and Calgary? Yes. I think
yeah.
so.
So then they win the season series, and then they go up 4 games on the Stamps. So it's really a 4 or, can you even call it a 6-point game? Like, it's a massive game in the standings. If
Well, yeah.
Calgary wins, they're only 2 games back, and they're back in the race for first place. You do not want but like, if you're Calgary, and I don't see any other team catching the Bombers at this point. You've got Saskatchewan at 4-3 who are falling apart. You've got the Lions. They're 4-1, but we stomped them pretty well. I know they play us a couple times at the end of the year. I'm not as concerned about the Lions overtaking us
Are
for first.
are you talking power rankings right now, or are you
No,
talking
no,
matchups?
no, I'm not.
Okay,
I'm
well, let's
just talking about standings here. That this
okay,
is a huge game of the week because of the Western Division standings. That if
sure.
they beat the Calgary Stampeders, they win the season series and they put themselves in a massive drive to have first place in the West locked up, potentially a couple games after Labor Day. So
Yep.
I just think from that standpoint, now I get the Stamps are gonna really, really be wanting some revenge here, but it sounds like they may have some serious illness in that locker room with some key guys missing, and including
Right.
Kadeem Carey. So Jameer Thurman, I believe, was one of their middle linebackers. So it should be interesting with the Bombers potentially limping in, and Calgary potentially being ravaged by illness. But for me, that's the hands down game of the week.
Yeah. Yeah. No argument from me there. I'm just going to pull up the lines from sportsinteraction.com. So be sure to check out, I'll just put it up here so people are reminded, sia.com/bonfire. Sign up there, get a great bonus, and help support us here at Bonfire Sports. Big shout out to Sports Interaction for that. Montreal at Hamilton, to me, is an intriguing game just for this number right here. They are a 3-point favorite. A team with 1 win this season, a 3-point favorite at home against Montreal. I think Hamilton is ready to turn the corner. I think they've shaken off whatever has been ailing them through this season. That'll be an interesting game. This one to me is very fascinating. BC is a 1.5-point favorite on the road in Saskatchewan. So they're not giving BC a ton of love, but they also know that people like betting on the Rough Riders. And after having the game that they did, right, I think Saskatchewan fans are going to be ready to put their money down on another home game. So maybe there's some value there for people to look at. No doubt the Bombers and Stamps are the game of the week. No point spread right now. They pulled it this afternoon. You can still bet the over under and that sort of thing. But on Sports Interaction, no line as of right now. I think Winnipeg was here. Let's find out. Winnipeg was a 1-point favorite yesterday. So, and it's since dropped back down to a push because I don't think they know what is exactly going to happen. However, with Calgary, one player has pneumonia, which is scary. Like, pneumonia can kill people. So can COVID, right?
Yeah.
But pneumonia is one that, it's not like it's been around a long time, is what I'm saying. And you want to be careful of that. But it'll be interesting to see how many of those players, like if it's actually going to stop at the handful of players, one with pneumonia, several others that are on the injury report with illness right now, or if it's going to continue to spread. I sure hope things are able to be contained, more negative tests come through, and we're able to play a football game in Calgary on Saturday.
Well, and actually, not the game of the week, but for me, the second most intriguing game is the Lions versus Saskatchewan. I mean, that has standings implications. I'm seeing some funny comments here on the chat. Tamara saying she can't cheer for the Riders, but other people are saying they'd like to see the Riders beat the Lions because the Lions are maybe the biggest threat behind Calgary to Winnipeg. But you've talked a lot about Jason Shivers and that Saskatchewan defense. Most turnovers in the league, most interceptions. They that defense is humming, and it will be interesting to see what they throw at Rourke. They're at home,
Mhm.
so I think that 1.5 point spread for the Lions is an interesting one. I wouldn't be surprised, and who knows who's playing quarterback too. I don't expect Fajardo to play,
He
but
was
it
taking
could be
first team
Mason
reps
Fa
today.
He was?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Lions are still favored by 1.5 points.
Yeah.
That's an
It's
interest.
actually
I would,
really interesting.
I think it
There's
was Jeff
value there.
Gavilis who says, I'm throw some money on Sports Interaction for my beer fund. I think I could boost my beer fund because I'm interested in that one. Minus 1.5 for the Lions on the road against a Cody Fajardo led team. That's intriguing to me. I don't know what the chat people think, but
Well, interesting question from Tamara, who's watching live on YouTube. What's going on, Tamara? Thanks for joining us. Are the Riders still suffering through COVID? We know a bunch of their players missed last week. I'm just pulling up the most recent injury report from today. I don't know if there is one from today. How about that? Well, let's take a look. Oh, maybe. Okay. Yeah. No, they have updated it today. I see I've zoomed in my screen so much so I can kind of pull it up for everybody. But yeah, so as of right now, no James Moore, Manny Ragamba are the only two listed with illness as their issue. So, pardon me, that's the Lions. So there's something going through the lines as well.
okay.
Okay, yeah, the Riders are still really suffering from COVID. Albert Awachi, Logan Bandy, Charbel Dabry, all with illness. Cody Fajardo is illness and knee, but he practiced fully today. So I imagine he is pretty far along in his, string of negative COVID tests as part of the CFL's COVID protocol. Frankie Hickson, their tailback, who had a really good game last week, did not practice today. He has illness. So it looks like, if guys that played last week are now out this week with illness, we don't know if it's COVID. They could have a stomach bug, they could have food poisoning. It could be a variety of things. Nick Marshall back after missing the last game. Justin McInnes as well. But yeah, their injury list is still quite long. Of course, you can find that on CFL.ca. There's value there. I think with BC being a 1.5 point favorite, I wouldn't hesitate and maybe try to grab it before it disappears.
A lot of people, I've just one note before we get to our power rankings. I've seen a lot of people talk about the Riders crossing over and then playing at home in the Grey Cup against us and beating them, and how sweet that would be. And would the Bombers get the Riders home locker room as the West representative in the Grey Cup, Darren? I think they would, which would
Yeah.
be doubly hilarious.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that because I thought that was a funny
Well,
little thread on Twitter I saw.
This is my thought on that, though. So let's say the unlikely happens. And I say unlikely because everything's got to kind of fall in the stars have to align perfectly. Saskatchewan crosses over to the east, wins the east. They're the east representative in the Grey Cup. The Bombers win the west and are the west representative in the Grey Cup. And Winnipeg would have the home locker room at the host city. I think, especially because it's not like Ivor Wynn or McMahon, because it's a brand new facility and it's frankly, for people that haven't been inside Mosaic, the inside is beautiful. Like everything is polished and finished and carpeted. It's really impressive. Underneath. I think Winnipeg would be like, look, take your locker room. We don't want your locker room. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe it would be a great psychological game to play. But I think Winnipeg would just be like, all your stuff's there, whatever, go for it. This is a road
That
game for us.
I
We don't
think
care.
actually you're right. I think they wouldn't want to give them any cannon fodder. They would just be like, yeah, take your locker room. We're still going to kick your ass. And Dylan Spicer, interesting comment here. They didn't take the home room in Calgary in 2019 because they didn't want it. I think they like the away locker room. So
Well, it's more like, think about it.
interesting.
It's more like any other time they play in Calgary,
Yeah.
right? It would be weird being in another team's like home locker
Maybe.
room. A little bit.
I think
Like
it'd
you
be
got
pretty
their
funny.
logo. Like, what do you put rugs on the logo? Like, what do you do?
Dentures. I don't know.
I mean, I bought some rugs at Costco today, so maybe if they
Oh,
need
good
them,
for you.
I can lend them a couple. But Bomber stamps this week, Zach, will be a fascinating one, and to no surprise, as we've now seen a third of the season. What are you laughing at? The
Well,
green comment?
Waiters has made a couple interesting comments about my relationship with Mrs. Big Hill, and we were sitting beside each other in our spin class, but I don't know that I'll be sitting beside her at the Grey Cup. I'd have to be invited. I'd be very surprised. Oh, Rob Mahoney wants to see the rugs. He's interested in your home decor.
I don't have them out yet. I wish I could. Maybe one
I
day I'll do
wouldn't
like
put
a
him out
live.
because your shirt got rocked last week, and now people are going to take shots at your rugs.
Well, like, is this Argos blue or what? Did the
Uh,
Argos used to wear gray, a little gray with
did
the
they?
blue? I don't know. I know the Stampeders did. I saw a
Well,
throwback game on like an ESPN Classic the other day, and it was like the Stamps with the gray pants
oh, I
and the
hated when everyone wore
gray and red
gray. That's
striping.
terrible.
Oh man, I kind of liked it. I think it's a
Ah,
good look. You don't see that too much anymore. As far as we mentioned who practiced and who didn't today for the Blue Bombers. Should mention that the players who are out today in Calgary due to illness, one of them, according to head coach Dave Dickinson, has pneumonia. The others, or several players, have COVID. So, just amongst those that were out with illness today includes starting left tackle Derek Dennis,
yeah.
uh, linebacker, and the player whose name we talked a lot about 2 weeks ago, but maybe not for a good reason, Charlie Moore. He's the one who took the roughing the kicker
Yes,
penalty
he is.
that really flipped the score in that game.
Yeah.
Tommy Stevens, aforementioned Tommy Stevens, their big-bodied
The infamous Tommy
quarterback.
Stevens.
Yeah, oh man. And then Jameer Thurman, their starting weak side, I believe, linebacker, also out due to illness today. So they've got a handful of guys they're still dealing with.
Yeah.
Cameron Judge was limited today due to a hamstring glute issue. Kadeem Carey, forgot Kadeem Carey. He is out with illness today. So obviously we hope these individuals recover quickly if COVID or pneumonia is plaguing them right now. Pardon the descriptor. But I really just hope that, last season, the CFL was lucky. They were fortunate. They only had to reschedule one game. The Grey Cup went off, the playoffs went off, and the Grey Cup went off without a hitch. Everybody got COVID after the Grey Cup. Understandably, people are partying and maybe being a little bit more loose with things, but they got everything in. And, for a league that doesn't have a lot of luck sometimes, Zach, it was good to see. I sure hope 2022 that we're in right now doesn't get derailed because of something like that. Let's get into the power rankings. People have been waiting for them. Where do you have the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in your power rankings, Zach?
Oh, that ugly win at Edmonton. I think that 6-0, 7-0 is a little bit of a, you
Suspect, right?
know, suspect. They've been lucky. Boris Beatty missed the point after. No, they're number one, for goodness sakes. You can't not be number one with a 7-0 perfect record. They've done it in different ways, but like I said, they win in different ways, and that's resilient, right? Who knows how they're going to win next week if they win? It could be special teams. It could be the offense. It could be the running game, especially if Jameer Thurman is out, their middle linebacker. And you got Prukop. Maybe they dial something up with Prukop. So I've been impressed with the Bombers. I don't believe in winning lucky. I think you deserve every win you get. unless it's against the Bombers. No, I'm just kidding. No, they're number one, Darren. They have a point differential plus 66. They've allowed 7 touchdowns in 7 games. Still haven't allowed a rushing touchdown, despite the fact that they only have 1 of 3 starters in their linebacking core, with
Mhm.
Maston out and Kyrie Wilson out. Like it's insane. They may be a bend but break defense, but they've allowed the least touchdowns. It's just it's an elite defense. They're solid on special teams, and the offense, is up and down, but you have the best player in the game in Colares. So for me, they're number one, Darren, and I assume they are for you too.
I love how you took your time to form your argument. I don't think anybody in the CFL or in Canada or anybody that watches or follows the league would rationally argue otherwise. The Blue Bombers are the best team in the country as we are today, 1/3 into the season. Are there teams that could push them? Absolutely.
Of
This
course.
weekend, this weekend could be interesting. We could see a much more potent Calgary Stampeders offense. They had 5-6 drops in Winnipeg
Yeah,
2 weeks ago. Uh, I think Calgary could give them a run. I think
absolutely.
BC has the potential to get better every week as the season goes on. They're a young team. They're a relatively new team as far as their head coach and a lot of their players and playing together. We all know about Nathan Rourke being in his second year and first year as a starter and the rest. But I was going to give my power rankings in reverse order, but I will give
Oh,
them. I want to hear your power rankings from top to bottom right now,
okay.
Zach. No
Okay, right
argument.
now.
Just lay it down on me.
And by the way, better late than never, Sandy. I'm glad you're here. You know what? This may sound lazy, but I actually have them the exact same as CFL.ca, because I did my power rankings, then I looked at theirs, and they were the same. So
I can't say I've ever looked at theirs. I mean, not ever. Today. I haven't looked at
throwing
them
shade
today.
at CFL.ca, I would.
They're
I can't
all
say I've
my
ever looked at those
oh,
ones.
those are all my friends, and I love
I know they
how,
are.
Christina Constable is now a
Yes.
female voice in the power
Good,
rankings.
right?
Yeah, she's awesome. Good friend of mine. We did some work together last year, and yeah, she's
That's
just great
right. You
and
did.
very,
You
very
did.
knowledgeable football mind as well. I don't even know where would I find them on their website?
Oh, it was one of the articles
Well, I guess
posted
you'll
today.
tell me. You'll tell me, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly
Because
what
you
they
have the
are.
exact same as them.
I
I
had the
found them here.
same. I
I
had the
found them
same.
here.
I really rested on records here. I thought the record says what you are. So, I've got Winnipeg at number 1. I've got Calgary at number 2. Even though they have the same record as BC, and BC does have a higher point differential, plus 72 versus plus 49. You had those players in the early going against Toronto and Edmonton. Edmonton was just a disaster that first game, so I think that's maybe inflated. You've seen them maybe come back to earth a little bit, Darren. They've got that second year quarterback, so we'll see. Between the two of them, I mean, I'd love to see the two of those teams play. I do
Mhm.
have Toronto fourth, as much as they seem to try and bumble away wins. Very easily could have beat us. I do believe they have the talent. They have the horses, and including Andrew Harris, Curly Gittins, this Cam Phillips guy is playing
Mhm.
well. Tavares Daniels. They've got good receivers, and MBT, the law firm, had another good game, throwing for over 300 yards. So I think that they are a very solid team, and I think they'll be in the mix at the end in the East Division final. So I've got Toronto at 4. I have Saskatchewan at 5. Even though I think Toronto's point differential is minus 25. I don't think anybody in the East has a positive one. But
Mhm.
that's the inflated one because of the BC loss.
Sure.
Saskatchewan, I have at 5. I'd love to put them at 9, but I can't. I can't be that much of a biased Bombers fan. Then I've got Montreal, even though, they've been inconsistent. They have a David Cote unlucky missed field goal from being higher up there. And then I've got Edmonton, and I only have Edmonton ahead of Hamilton because they beat Hamilton, even though Hamilton basically gave that game away. A win's a win, right? So I've got Edmonton, even though they have a minus point differential 113. They are finding ways of winning games, and I think Taylor Cornelius is playing better. So I've got Hamilton at 8, but like you, I expect them to come back. And then Ottawa, you're 0-6, so you're at the bottom. I'm sorry, I don't care what could have happened or would have happened or should have happened. You're at the bottom for me. So that's my power rankings, my friend.
Okay, so you said you really went by schedule.
No, but
record.
record. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. There's the standings, East Division, West Division standings, league standings, right? Points, 2 for a win, 0 for a loss, 1 for a tie, right? That's there all the time and gives you a current picture of where things stand. Power rankings, to me, it's different to everybody, but power rankings to me are how powerful are these teams if they could all play each other all at the same time today. Neutral field today. Where's the power in the CFL? So I'm going to rank some teams a lot higher than their record. And I'm going to rank some teams a lot lower than their record may indicate. So are you ready? I'm going to shock some people.
Can I guess that Hamilton's going to be much higher than me, than where I put Hamilton?
Yeah. So
people are going to take shots at you on the chat.
Top to bottom, you have Winnipeg, Calgary. Zach, your power rankings are Winnipeg, Calgary, BC, Toronto, Saskatchewan, Montreal, Edmonton, Hamilton, Ottawa. Okay. I have Winnipeg at number 1. We don't need to get into why. I have Calgary at number 2. I think they're just as good a football team as Winnipeg. I really, really do. Look out. They're going to play 2 more times this season. They're probably going to meet in the playoffs in one way, shape, or form. I have the Hamilton Tiger Cats at number 3. What? I think they are a better team today than they have been in the past. You take away the boneheaded giveaways and fumbles and interceptions and turnovers, their record would not be what it is today. I have Hamilton at number 3. I have BC at number 4. And
they just lost to BC.
That was like 4 weeks ago. And they lost by 2.
Hamilton just lost to BC this week.
Yeah, again.
17-12.
Again. What do you mean? Last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, in BC.
Yeah.
Right.
They lost.
Yes. I get it.
I love it. The chat is coming down on you, Darren.
Good.
But I love
hang on. You're just gonna chirp
here.
me? You're gonna chirp me and then not let me. BC beat Hamilton. BC beat Hamilton by 5. But when you think of the BC Lions, what do you think of? Do you think of a good defense or do you think of an explosive offense? Everybody sees the BC Lions as a team that can score 40, 50 points on you, as they've done against Edmonton and Toronto this season, right? They have looked weak on defense against Winnipeg. They looked weaker on offense against Hamilton. They are not a perfect team. They are a young team, and that's why I understand Hamilton lost in Vancouver just the other day. But I have Hamilton a squeak ahead of them in my power rankings. You want to look at the CFL standings? Go look at the CFL standings. I have the Toronto Argonauts at number 5. I have the.
You mean number 4? Are you at 4?
No, I got Winnipeg, Calgary, Hamilton, BC.
Okay.
Then I'm going Toronto.
Yeah.
I'm going Toronto. Then I'm putting Saskatchewan a squeak ahead of Edmonton. Then Montreal, then Ottawa. Those are my power rankings. The reason I gave Saskatchewan a bit of a heads up on Edmonton is because they have gone through, COVID this past week, a lot of shenanigans on and off the field, a lot of distraction. I think their core talent and their core coaching is better than Edmonton's is right now. But Edmonton is my dark horse to start making moves. They played well against Winnipeg last week. Taylor Cornelius is their 3rd or 4th starting quarterback. they will get better. And I think Taylor Cornelius, when given more opportunity, will clean up what plagued him last season, and that was late interceptions. Interceptions, and especially late in games, it really, really hurt them. But I'm giving Saskatchewan a squeak ahead of them right now. When it comes to Montreal, Ottawa, I mean, I get it. Montreal won in Ottawa, but that might be the only reason I have them ahead of the Ottawa Red Blacks right
Yeah.
now. These are power rankings. If they played on a neutral field today, this is how I see it shaken down.
It's bold, but
Now,
I get some of your logic.
should I look into the live chat, because I've kind of been ignoring it while I was talking.
Well, some people were saying you were smoking the green stuff. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too
Sure,
bad,
Fritchie
Darren.
says I'm a Hamilton apologist. I like that. Uh, yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what, Darren, though?
What is Darren smoking? Okay, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
take that
yeah.
treason. That's fine. Yeah, Jeff says you should check my water.
But
Something in that cup. Yeah,
flask and a bong. But listen, you've been consistently saying Hamilton is going to turn it around, that they're a
they
better team
will.
than their record indicates. So I'll give you the consistency award, Darren, and I like the boldness because listen, if they come if they come to the fore going ahead here, you will look like an absolute genius. Not that you
They're
don't look like a
they're
genius
they're
already,
going
but
to turn it around. They're going to turn it around. I mean, I would almost be comfortable putting um well, yeah. I had Toronto at 5, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Toronto's right there too. Uh sorry. Toronto is very close to falling into the back. I know they lead the East Division right now. You look at how they've won football games this year. They've been bit by kicks in somehow being gifted a win against the Montreal Alouettes. They've been bit by a missed convert and not being able to go to overtime against the best team in the league in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They've shown good, they've shown bad. Their only identity right now is Andrew Harris. Like McLeod Bethel Thompson, he's throwing for yards. I think he only trails, he's right behind Doug Flutie in all-time passing yards in Argo's history. He's slowly creeped up to that. But I mean, Toronto's got a lot of talented players. I just don't know if they can put it all together. Their coach, to me, uh, in Ryan Dinwiddie, is like, based on his decision making and strategy and game management this past week. If they get more of that through the second third of the season here and into the final third of the season, they could easily find themselves at the bottom of the East Division. I don't know if Ottawa is going to be able to like really fire it up without Jeremiah Masoli, but Hamilton is going to be better. Montreal sure should be better, but they're just not a good football club right now. The power is all in the West. I think people don't sleep on Edmonton. They're going to be a better football team. Saskatchewan is going to go one of two directions. It is diving right now, but they could easily turn it around. I have utmost respect for their two coordinators, love them or hate them, Jason Moss at OC and Jason Shivers at defensive coordinator. I'm not the biggest Cody Fajardo guy, but they got a pretty good football club there.
Well, and people don't forget Shaq Evans and Kyron Moore have been out, right? So that is a big chunk of your offense. Really, they only throw deep to Duke Williams, and then they throw a lot of short stuff to try and get the offense going. I would be very interested to see how the Saskatchewan and Edmonton games go. I even marked them down when we were talking about power rankings when I was looking it up. So they played once. Saskatchewan won by 10, but they play August 13th and September 16th. So pretty close together. I wouldn't be surprised if Edmonton, gives them a good game in both. And if they win both, it really puts Saskatchewan down in fourth place in terms of crossover territory. And I think that Edmonton defense, they gave us some problems, Darren. They are probably going to start gelling, although really not sure about Duron Carter at safety. But what do I know about football? Chris Jones apparently knows more than I do.
That defense is scary. I mean, it's the collective, right? Like their scheme and the way they play is effective. Um, ask Zach Collaros, ask the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They had their hands full last week. In 2 weeks, Zach, Saturday, August 6th, the Ticats are in Toronto to face the Argos. If you disagree with me that Hamilton is not a better team than Toronto, wait for that game on August 6th. Check back in on Tuesday night, the day before the game, or in our post-game show. Jump into the live chat. Tell me I'm right. Tell me I'm wrong. Or do this. 816 tips, 816-8477. Hit the Bonfire hotline. Call, leave a voicemail, chirp me off. I love it. Keeps me entertained in the down hours, or send a text. I always text back. So be sure to, unless you're absolutely incoherent, which does happen sometimes. But I have a lot of fun with the Bonfire hotline, 816-8477, with that familiar 204 area code. What does that leave us with, Zach?
Well, we're almost done here, Darren. We have to do a quick update on our Pick-Em and fantasy leagues, and then I have some very sad news about my trip to Calgary next week.
Oh,
not
yes.
actual sad news, but kind of sad news. But I'll just do a quick update if that's okay on the Pick-Em. We
Good.
still have Ted Lee 2.
Ted Lee
in first by 700 points, and it's those streak points that really put you ahead and pick them. So if you win a bunch of times in a row, then they just pile on the streak points. He's got 800, sorry, and he's fifth in the entire universe in the CFL Pick'em League. He's now won the last 8 of his picks, so he's killing it. Then in fantasy football, we have NJLAF 705 still in first. He didn't have a huge week last week, but he's got 722 points.
And look who's in second.
I know, and Ted Lee is right there. So I mean, on aggregate, he's our champ, but
I'm way down.
Impressive.
I'm in the 400s.
Yeah,
it's bad news.
It's bad for you, buddy. Yeah.
I missed a couple weeks, or my roster didn't finalize, but either way, I have made some pretty bad picks this year. Not the best CFL fantasy player, but having a lot of fun doing this here on Bonfire Sports.
It is fun. And we will have prizes for the winners, of course.
Yes. They're in your little man cave there right now, aren't they?
Yes, they
Those
are.
prizes. Yeah.
Well, and I also this Canada Drives contest that people know about on CFL.ca. I was one of the winners.
Congrats.
Probably the person that needs it the least with all my bomber swag, but $500 to the Bomber store. I will be picking up my wonderful mother-in-law an away jersey. She wants an away jersey, and it's going to have mother-in-law on the back. I just gave it away, but she kind of knows what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to get someone else a jersey, I think. I mean, those jerseys aren't cheap. That'll probably eat up the 500. If I have any left, I'm going to get some more of those mugs from the Sports Vault that I love, that they're going to get back in the Bombers store. But yes, next week I am in Calgary. I am going to be present in the same city as the Bombers, but I can't go to the game because it's my brother-in-law's wedding. So alas,
your brother-in-law, is he marrying your sister again, or how does that work?
I'm not even going to try and come back on that because I just love that. I just love that shot you just took.
Your brother-in-law's wedding. How does that work? I honestly, when you told me that the other day, I sat there dumbfounded. I'm like, wait a second. Yep. Oh, okay. Oh, I get. Yes. Okay, I get it. Okay.
Yeah. So brother-in-law is marrying a lovely lady from Alberta. They are having a wedding in Calgary. Now,
I think I was just confused because, like, if it was my family, there probably wouldn't be like, go like, I don't know. My family probably wouldn't be like, oh yeah, we'll go to the in-laws. We're not that close. I don't really have any. Do I have any? Yeah, I got in-laws in Toronto.
Oh, there you go. That's a nice
Yeah,
place to visit.
yeah, but
So
they
so
don't follow the CFL, so we don't talk.
but the night of the wedding is the sun. Okay, right. Yeah, I agree. I got you there. The night of the wedding is the Sunday, so I could go, but it's rehearsal dinner, and my daughter's the flower girl, and I was just sort of told in not so subtle ways by the family that it wouldn't go over well, and
Mm.
I there will be many more years of away games that I can go to. Maybe I could take my kids, and I have to live with this family for the rest of my life. So I don't know, man. It's so sad to be so close yet so far away. But
Well, and it's gonna be a special
anyway,
game, right? Like, truly one
yeah,
of the great games or great matchups, in the
I
CFL this
know.
season between the 2 best teams in the league, right now. Do have to mention before we sign off, Zach, kind of big
Yes,
news in
sir.
the National Football League today. The Jets of New York have signed Chris Streveler as one of their quarterbacks. So
Yes.
his fourth team now. He's played with the Arizona Cardinals. He was on Baltimore's practice roster last season, then
Yeah.
released, joined the Miami Dolphins in their off-season roster. So never suited up for them, but I think he did some, voluntary workouts, that sort of thing. Released, now a member of the New York Jets. People were asking about it weeks ago. Like, is Chris Streveler going to come back to Canada? Does this mean he's going to be back in the CFL soon now that Miami has cut him? I really felt, oh, how about that? I think this is Transcona Pauly. He's calling the Bonfire hotline right now, as he said he would in the live chat. Can't answer right now, kind of busy. But as I speculated several weeks ago, Zach, Chris Streveler getting another opportunity. Quarterbacks continue to get opportunities in the National Football League. And the reality is, the same way we've seen growth and progression and innovation in the CFL to much more passing as of late, where there was, I think, a little bit more running for a phase. I don't know how long, last 10 years, whatever. It's moving to a lot more pass heavy again. The NFL, similar to the Wildcat era, is starting to use quarterbacks in different capacities. So somebody like Chris Streveler, who you could put on special teams, go hit somebody. 17, go hit somebody. And he'll do it, right? Or
Mhm.
whatever number he's wearing. I know he was 15 in Arizona. Was he 17 in Winnipeg?
Yeah.
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 Anyway, yeah. We're
Yeah.
Kahari Jones number. But
I'd like to see him be successful in the NFL, and
absolutely,
I think he
absolutely.
could
He's an
be.
amazing athlete.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so the fur coat isn't coming out in Winnipeg, unlikely this winter anyway. But we'll see. He's close to getting NFL pension, and he's close to probably securing. He's made about $1 million in salary in the National
Yeah.
Football League.
Yeah.
At what point do you say, okay, like, I think he's got 2 master's degrees, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Like, this
something
isn't a
like
guy
that.
that needs football, but I
No.
sure know he loves to play. Yeah.
No. Someone was saying the winner of the, just back to the Pick-em and
Mhm.
Bonfire Fantasy League would get a signed photo of me. I mean, absolutely. I'd be happy to
Yeah.
sign a photo of me,
Better you
bearded
than me,
or
man.
otherwise, or both of us.
Nope. Mm-mm. No. Unless we
So,
do like
yeah.
unless we do like what the Winnipeg Jets Twitter, like, social media team did, and they did like their 2 first round picks, Rutger McGroarty and Brad Lambert,
Yes.
as like stepbrothers, like the Step Brothers movie. Like, they photoshopped their faces onto the 2 stepbrothers, like Will Ferrell and
Yeah.
yeah, it was good. I like that. But that's the only way you and I would do a combo photo,
I
you and
think
I.
that'd be fun. I'd have
Okay,
to grow
right?
the beard out again, but,
Yeah, yeah, you do look like a different person. You really do.
well, I do. Someone in 8th grade maybe, but, anyway, yes. Yeah, so I don't know that I'll be on the post game because 'cause I'll be at the rehearsal dinner. I won't be able to watch the game. If you're
Yeah.
desperate, I don't know the Wi-Fi in the house we're gonna be at, but, hopefully you'll have a stand-in, and if not, we'll somehow figure it out. I'll bring my microphone, and, we'll see what happens. Will be a game time decision.
Yeah, no, like I told you yesterday, I'll tell it in front of everybody. You go enjoy your family, enjoy a special time at the wedding, and we're not going anywhere, Zach. You'll be back uh,
I know,
for
but I just
Tuesday
wanna be
night.
at the goddamn game.
Oh,
Poor
I know.
me and my loving
Yeah.
family, as Comet said it. Poor Zach.
Poor Zach. Yeah, no kidding. Well, it's going to be a real fun game on Saturday. Fingers crossed it does go down, of course, with pneumonia and COVID reportedly or apparently going through the locker room with the Stampeders. But very interesting slate of inside division games in the CFL this week. Chris Walby will join me live Friday, 3 o'clock, right here, youtube.com/bonfire sports. Everybody who is in the live chat right now, go down below, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, or if you're watching this after, jump into the comments. I read all the comments. Really appreciate all of that. The Bonfire Sports hotline is just lit up. It's just ringing and people are leaving voicemails. It's awesome. Be sure to do that as well. Join me and Walby Friday at 3, as we always do the day before the game. Post game, Zach, I do have a analyst lined up. One of my faves. We'll keep that a surprise
All
until the show, but
right.
that'll be just a few minutes following Bombers Stampeders. And then, of course, you and I, my man, will be back here on Tuesday next week at 7:30 for Bonfire Midweek.
And we may have an exciting unboxing at that point. I'm just going to leave it there. There may be
Okay.
some cool swag to unbox that we want to give away. So not promising, but we may have something lined up, folks.
Love that. Love that. Love the
Yeah,
teasers.
baby. Love the
Okay.
teasers. And not teasers. You just love the teasers.
The teasers. No, I love teasers. Lowercase t. There's some Winnipeg for you. Did we hear from Dalton Schoen?
Oh no, we didn't.
Okay, let's get to Dalton Schoen right now, because like I talked to them for a few minutes, but this is the good stuff right here. And apologies for a little bit of sound clipping in the middle of it. But after a monster game, here's the Blue Bombers clearly early most outstanding rookie.
It was a tough program when I was there, especially with Coach Snyder. He's a legendary coach and he ran a tight ship. And so that work ethic is just something that's kind of always been instilled in me. And it kind of leads back to what we were just talking about opportunity. I knew it was a great opportunity for me coming up here, but I also knew I had to be prepared for it and make the most of it. I think coming in shape, that's easy. That's something you can control, You're never going to be able to control the opportunities you get when you're up here, how many reps you get, stuff like that. So I wanted to control the things I could control, be ready to go, take as many reps as I could, and ideally be healthy and stuff like that.
Who's helped you the most since arriving here?
I'd say all the receivers. I know that's probably not the answer you're looking for, but you look every one of those guys in the starting lineup with Dembski, Sheed, Wally, Greg. Greg was a new guy to this program, but a guy with a ton of experience, And I played his spot a lot early in camp too. Right next to him, talked to him a lot, but all four of those guys have been awesome. They're really good about communicating, making sure everyone's on the same page, whether it's out here on the field or in the film room. They do a good job of breaking down stuff they've seen. Obviously they've played these teams a ton where I haven't, and so they know the players, they know the schemes a lot, and so they've all communicated a lot with me.
Your numbers have been impressive. 4 touchdowns in your first 7 games is really something for a rookie in pro football, let alone first year in the CFL. How fortunate do you feel to join a team that has somebody like Zach Collaros pulling the trigger?
I feel very fortunate to be a part of this team for a multitude of reasons, though. Number one, like you just said, getting to play with Zach is awesome, whether it's, like I said, playing out here on the field or, in the film room, just learning from him how he wants you to run routes, what he sees, drawing up plays, stuff like that. Then I also feel fortunate because I love the culture on this team, It's something that I want to be a part of, and it's something that I'm kind of used to, is the team-first mentality, helping everyone along type stuff. I've been in a few pro facilities, and it's not always like that. It's a lot of every man for themselves. So to be a part of that culture here in this team and then this receiver unit, how close we are, it's pretty special. So there is Dalton Schoen starting with comments about like where all of his, professionalism and kind of veteran savvy that he has already, despite, he's been in some NFL facilities and worked out with teams and been off-season members of them, but has never played in a game. He comes to the CFL and really is something to see him just with immediate chemistry and gel with Zach Collaros.
Yep. Yeah, he's a special player, and he is, I would imagine, the odds-on favorite, hands down, to win Rookie of the Year. Hey, Darren.
Yeah, I think so. He also touched on what else he played. He was a 3-sport athlete in high school. So he played basketball, ran a little point guard, a little bit of shooting guard, and then he played baseball as well. Can you guess what position in baseball Dalton Schoen played?
I'm going to say shortstop.
Good guess. Good guess. He's a wide receiver, so he's got good speed, can cover a lot of ground. He's got good hands, good hand-eye coordination, can catch. Center field. He played
Oh, yeah.
in high school. And he said, he even specifically said he played shallow center because he could pretty much track down any of those like balls over his head. And, even talked about like kind of the Willie Mays, basket catches similar to how football players catch those deep footballs. So, well, hey, Gregory Liverpool guessed it right. He guessed center field. But yeah, Dalton Schoen, what a diamond in the rough the Blue Bombers found with him. And I can't believe I almost forgot to play that for all of us.
I know, dude. You were talking about
MidWeek.
that in the beginning. So,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Waiters, are there odds on the Sports Interaction for Rookie of the Year? That'd be fun to
Go check it out. Go
check it out. Throw down some coins there, folks. Not your mortgage, but just have a little fun. It's just entertainment money. So hey, you win.
SIA.
It's great.
Yeah, SIA.com/bonfire. We appreciate that as always from everybody. Okay, Zach, great show today, man. As I mentioned to everybody, pregame Friday, postgame Saturday, and Zach, we will all see you back here on Tuesday next week.
Yes, enjoy the analyst. Darren, I noticed you don't call me an analyst. It's like, oh, an analyst is coming. Zach's
analyst.
Just a personality. He's that fun guy at the party. Hey, I got some below. I've got some analyst stuff. I do numbers.
Read the description below. It literally says fan analyst Zach Schnitzer.
Fanalist. You just made up a new word. I didn't say
fanalist. You want to call yourself a
fanalist?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
For fanalist Zach Schnitzer, I'm Darren Bombing. We'll see you guys next time here on Bonfire. Thanks, everybody.